So how does it feel coming back to MacEwan?
Always feels good. You know, I struggled a bit coming out of high school. I was not committed to my studies, so to speak. And I went to Concordia originally to take commerce, and I failed out badly. The only thing that kind of kept me there for half a semester was I played on the hockey team and didn't even maintain a GPA high enough to stay that. So I actually went and worked for a couple years and then found out about the management studies program, which was newer back then. And only at that time just getting into the 4-year stuff with Lethbridge.
Right.
So I was excited by a business opportunity without algebra or calculus. So
okay, yeah, and I think a lot of our students can feel that way too. So we've kind of actually in the BCom program, we don't make them take a calculus course.
Brilliant.
So you know, you're just you're one of those students that should have given us that that advice beforehand.
I did ask. I said, how does the slope of a line solve a problem in business?
Yeah.
So it was in my business hospitality. I never saw that transpiring. So that's why I fought it.
So thinking back, what were the things that you got out of the business program that you know, the combination of experience, but also the things that you studied at you know, did you go to University of Lethbridge after? No, you didn't. Okay, so at MacEwan, what were the things that you really make your life better in terms of your business career right now?
Well, I thought it was really like real world stuff. You know, business math, that kind of stuff we were learning about. Mortgage rates and interest, and everything was really seemed to be applicable, where sometimes on the university level it's a little bit grandiose thinking. Some of the questions that we asked, like I was literally living in the supervision course, there was questions on my final that I was literally living. So I was managing a restaurant and a bar at the time, and there was a question in the final exam was, you have a server that works well with customers but doesn't work well with people. What can you apply to it? So I was literally living it and going to school for it. So I really found that I was on the good dean's list for once when I came here, and I just really found that the courses were really engaging, and it made sense to me because I'd already worked a couple years, so the stuff we were learning was very real to me.
Right. Okay. So maybe talk a little bit about how you ended. You started in as a serving. We were talking a little bit about you know, people that are working now part time, some servers and things like that. Yeah. How did you get into it, and where did you see the potential for, you know, getting beyond and moving to higher levels within you know, where you become an owner?
It's a pretty long story, but I'll try to sum it up as best I can. I've always at 13 years old, I started working at Arby's, making roast beef sandwiches. I was actually too young to work inside the building, so twice a week I cleaned outside the parking lot and the building and scrubbed the drive-through. And I just got a taste for hospitality and working with people. Right. And that trend through high school and all that, as my part-time jobs always related around that industry. So
how did you get the first job? Was it?
The guy that babysat me was an assistant manager.
Okay.
So when I wanted a job. I made $4 an hour. Yeah. Rode my BMX to work. And, it was pretty cool. I loved it. So I've always kind of been entrepreneurial that way, that I liked money and I wanted to chase more money. Coming up through when I was at MacEwan, I was actually working 2 nights a week at a nightclub and absolutely loved it. That was my first taste of a real big nightclub setting, and I got a real passion for it. So I think I've always wanted to own my own restaurant or bar or however that looked. Out of Grant MacEwan, I started working. I opened a bar at 21 years old in Leduc called The Green Room. I don't know if anybody, maybe your parents went there, but it was a miserable failure. Okay. A year and 8 months of aggravation and failure. But it was a good learning experience. I actually had to get a second job to maintain a living while I was doing that. So I was fortunate enough to then sell to somebody else who believed in the program still there. But it was really good. We opened the bar with a $10,000 loan that I borrowed from a girl's dad who I met at Grant MacEwan. And
how did that work out?
Yeah, still, it's good.
It
didn't work out well. He didn't get his money back. So I vowed to this day, it's in my outlook that, you know, I gotta one day remind myself to kick this guy back his 10 grand. And from there, I went back and worked in the restaurant business, multiple different levels. I was managing, I was bartending, I did a variety of things within the bar business, and then kind of coming around where it came back was I did a 2-year entertainment sort of thing. Did some of that in the bar, and then came back and started working at a place called Union Hall, which is still here today, in 2004, for a company there that was, at that time, Hudson's, Standard, and they were opening Union Hall. So I started there as a head bartender at 28 years old, and just worked my way through that company. And then what happened was a year later, I was the GM. The Standard started failing with that Hudson's in there, and they had an opportunity there. They wanted the next manager to be an owner. They'd rolled through a bunch of managers, so they had this opportunity that was given to somebody ahead of me. He had to basically buy into the new concept, whatever that new concept was.
Right.
He refused. He felt like he had to buy his job.
Okay. So buy-in in terms of
ownership, equity, yeah.
Okay.
So basically what happens in nightclub business a lot of times is people can just roll around. Someone will offer a few bucks more and you lose a manager. So they asked me to buy in and borrowed some money from my dad this time and paid him back in 6 months. We opened the ranch, first time, 2006. And that was my first taste as an owner.
Right.
So really just the relentless pursuit of, I don't want to talk about the secret or anything like that, but just kind of always being a vision that I want to own my own bar, I want to be an owner. It's just funny how opportunity just comes.
Yeah.
And the guy that brought me into the company ended up leaving the company on the same opportunity I was given.
Okay.
So from there, 2006, 2008, ranch was going awesome. I bought into a couple Hudson's, small percentages. I bought into Union Hall, and then in 2008, we were approached by a group from Red Deer called Billy Bob's, and they gave us $3 million for the ranch. So I was a 10% shareholder, so you can do the quick math. I got a $250,000 check, which was like I stared at it for a long time. That was a lot of money.
Yeah. So when you made that decision, that would probably be a very tough call because I mean you've created something. You've helped to grow it. Somebody thinks that it has that value of $3 million. What type of a process was it for you to decide to actually sell?
Well, it wasn't much. I was a 10% shareholder, so my vote was very minimal. I was running Union and the ranch at the time I oversaw both clubs, and if we sold the ranch, I basically would be out of a job. So what ended up happening from there is the main owner, who's still the president of Hudson's, kind of sat me down and said, "This never happens. No one ever buys a nightclub." Like he was from the Club Malibu days and the Armory days, and he said, "This is the ideal storm. You open a nightclub, gets busy, someone comes in, pays you for it." And we didn't own the building. We owned nothing. We had the right to do business in that spot. So the one cardinal error I think they made is they didn't buy the name in the transaction. So I retained the name because it was my name, and so I took that with me. I then bought Union from the bigger group with a couple other guys. So even though $250,000 seemed like a lot of money, it was just a third of what Union Hall cost us to buy. And so we started on our own. 2009, 212 Social was born, and we started down our path from there.
So have you when you took the concepts? How did you determine what you were going to do in terms of the Edmonton area, and making it a little bit different from other experiences? How did you do that? Did you go around and see what was offered and what was missing in the market? Or? Yeah,
it's a combination for us. A good example of that really is Central for us, and I knew in the back of my mind I always wanted to get into the food business. So as we grew and ended up selling Union Hall in 2013 and opening Central in 2012, we had no intention of doing this pub concept yet, and a realtor called us with the opportunity where Central sits. It was a Chinese food restaurant that went under, and right on 109 in Jasper.
Right.
So we kind of were like, okay, well, I guess we're doing our food concept now. So it kind of thrust that right to the forefront of our company, and I mean, the confusion for me or the hard decision part is you see a lot of people being successful. At the time, Hudson's was successful, Canadian Brewhouse was successful, Joey's, Earl's. So you kind of go in there and you find yourself seeing what's working everywhere else, but not really. So you take like 5% of everybody's what they're doing well and try to make a mash of that, and it doesn't work.
No.
So for us, Central it's still a learning process, but the first year, like we really knocked it out of the park with the experience and the atmosphere, stuff that we were good at from the nightclub side, but our food was like not good.
Okay.
It's terrible. So in the I can really confidently say we would open for 3 years. Last November, we finally found an amazing consulting chef that basically gave us the confidence to say, hey, stop like worrying about what's working here. Let's create our own identity. Like what's different about Central? Like what can we have? Our menu is good, but it's literally like, oh, my partner likes this. His wife likes this. So we just kept putting all this stuff on the menu, and it really had no rhyme or reason. So it's really tough when you have that kind of investment. And you're seeing success, and you're also risking a lot in the chance that, what if we come up with this idea and no one likes it or no one accepts it? So
except the individual people that are had the ideas.
Correct.
I mean, they're going to reiterate.
And I mean, what I like is not certainly my personal taste come into play. There's a flair to it, but there's certain things that I just, you can't, I don't like Nutella. I'm like the only person in the world that's like Nutella. So we have a Nutella cheesecake finally on our menu that's amazing. But I never spread chocolate on my toast as a kid. I ate Cheese Whiz. So I was never a chocolate guy. I was a Cheese Whiz guy.
Right.
So, that's the thing where
you're
different
not
influences.
Mandate that everybody has to eat the cheese.
No,
Cheese Whiz.
I'm not gonna, and I'm going to allow a Nutella cheesecake onto the menu.
In terms of that, do you have a particular demographic that you're going after, and is it very similar to the nightclub, or are there parallels between it, or are you trying to go for a different clientele?
Different clientele. Well, in a sense, I mean, our clientele is anyone over 18 that wants to eat.
Right.
So as the broad spectrum of things. How we try to decipher that is that what we've done, and this is my one chance for my sales pitch for Central. So what we decided is, I mean, the ranch is a pretty simple formula. If anyone's been there, it's country music. We've done a lot around the safety aspect of it, but it is pretty much just like get your drink on, have a good time.
Yeah.
If you want the food element, there's a hot dog stand with pierogies, which is good at certain times of the night. But that's obviously the focus is the socialization, the dancing, the music, and that experience. So for us, Central was really trying to find a niche in a competitive market that we've taken fresh ingredients on our food side. We've taken fresh ingredients, locally sourced, and taken that to a pub atmosphere. So where locally sourced and raw ingredients are not new. I mean, there's a million great restaurants, there's 10, 15 great restaurants in Edmonton that are really knocking it out of the park, but most pubs, their food comes frozen, packaged. The same fried pickle you have at one pub is the same one you're having at another pub, because we're all buying the food from the same place. So what we've done is, when we brought on our chef, to give you an idea of our food sort of program, is we went from 24 prep recipes, that's 24 things we make, to 63. So we make our own sauces, our own gravies. Our burger patty is just ground beef. We hand form them. So we've really tried to, our food side is take some of that high-end casual dining experience and bring it to a place where you can still watch hockey, have a few too many drinks, feel like there's some atmosphere there, and create that little bit of a hybrid. So we like to consider ourselves somewhere between like, a Cactus and a Hudson's, if you take them as a two experience, where you can dance at Hudson's, but it's still more of like a sports pub.
Right.
And where Cactus is good food, cool room, but you don't really get up from your table and go mingle with other people. So we're trying to
bridge the two.
Kind of. If you ever watch a Keg commercial where there's like girls flirting with the guys, dipping the shrimp and all that, that never happens at the Keg, but we like to feel that happens at Central.
Okay.
So that's the best way. That's the best commercial for Central, is a Keg commercial.
Yeah. So how do you get the word out? Speaking about commercials, how do you get the word out about Central?
That was
is
tough.
It word of mouth, or is it people that, so you mentioned it was tough?
We spent probably in the first year about $600,000 in marketing, because we were coming downtown and realizing that there's a lot of major players, and we really had to, this is our first location, and we didn't want to come out like a lamb, we wanted to come out like a lion and really make an impact, and really helped our brand awareness. But to this day, the challenge is that I talk to people who've never been there, or someone that works downtown a few blocks away and says, oh, I didn't realize this place was here, or oh, I thought this was a bar, or oh, I didn't. I've talked to people on the weekend, and I'm like, yeah, have you ever eaten here? And like, you guys have food here? So we're not just the best pub-themed nightclub, we're, so just communicating that to people is my job.
Right.
And finding means of marketing to impact people that also, don't put us out too much money-wise. So that's a balance that every business struggles with.
Exactly, yeah.
Is marketing, because a lot of the marketing dollars it's not directly measurable.
Yeah. So do you do a lot of, in terms of finding what the people that are your clientele are interested in? Do you do surveys of them? Do you do things like that internally to find out what they want? And
we've done focus groups. We've done used our media company to help with market research. Some of that stuff is great because we have a perception. We sit around as an ownership group or as a management group of what people think we are, and hearing it from real people is always sometimes earth-shattering in the sense that where we think we are in good and bad ways.
Right.
The perception of a person, and I use this all the time on our restaurant business, is that perception is reality. If you're in customer service, a customer, the term a customer is always right, is really boils down to is that what you perceive to be true to you is true. So that's something that I've always sort of taught my management team and stuff like that, is that you obviously never make someone wrong. That's, in good life advice for everyone. Making someone wrong, you never win anything. So we really just try to keep along the lines of how people perceive us is the truth to them. We can't say, well, you think it's this way, but it's actually this way. Actually, it doesn't exist. It only exists in their perception. So.
Yeah. So what are some of the most, kind of surprising things you found in terms of that process, in terms of the perceptions versus what you would have thought your customers might have thought?
Well, when we started, our food goal was to be a little bit better than Hudson's or Pine. And then we opened with this beautifully designed room and this atmosphere that was really fun, and people expected the food to be better. So we were getting lit up on social media like crazy. And God bless Yelp and Google and Zomato now. But the customers forced us. I kind of explained to people, like, man, we're just trying to sell pub food here. Like, what do you expect? So they really kind of pushed us that they wanted a better product. They found that the experience there was elevated, but the food wasn't. So that kind of was an eye-opener to us, going then, okay, well, if the customers are coming here to expect a high-end product, not only in the atmosphere or the design of the room, they also want good food. So that was a big eye-opener for us, for sure.
We just were talking, and I was just talking in the class today about if you have a good experience, you typically tell one person, and quite often if you have a bad experience, you tell 10.
Totally.
Whereas, and we tend to focus, we could be doing 95% of our clientele would be, but we focus on that one, that 5% that doesn't like, and we take it personally. So how do you get away from that type of?
Well, you just stop taking it personally is the first thing we do. You try to pick, when people write a review, there's some layer of truth or something there, so we try to boil down sometimes, what really in the layer, where did we miss? Because again, they perceive that what their experience was bad, so their experience to them was bad. So some are just kind of off the wall, but more often than not, we try to reach out to people and on social media or on these things and give them the opportunity to contact us and say, hey, like we try to diligently do that and try to get them back and earn their business. But the problem is, I think that in this industry is that there's a lot of it's very easy for me to create a fake profile and start hacking on all my competitors, giving them 1 star. And I know there's algorithms and that and Yelp to try and avoid that, but we just try to take it with a grain of salt and hope that people don't only judge us by our Yelp score or our Google score.
Yeah, you haven't found any of your competitors doing that at all, or you don't know?
Who knows? There seem like some pretty specific things on there that don't really. Or one guy will go on, create an account, have 1 review, and just rip you. And that's all he ever says. Or she.
Okay.
So
so we have some student questions for you. On Go Soapbox, as an entrepreneur, what clues do you look for when faced with an opportunity? Is there a way that you judge the opportunity as to how worthwhile or a good idea it is? Or do you have now, with your experience, is it a gut feel or a combination?
Well, It's a funny thing. That's a good question. You know, you can, what's the thing? Analysis creates paralysis or something like that. So realistically, that can happen. You can overthink a deal because there's good and there's bad to every deal. We were a part of an opportunity that we were rolling. We had Ranch was going well. Union Hall was smashing. Central was, you know, coming on board, and we felt really unstoppable. So there was a bar across from Rexall Place called Diesel, and there was a couple stabbings in the parking lot a few times. So they closed down, and it was like you could get that bar for a song, like nothing. Right. So in our infinite wisdom, we thought, well, it's right across from Rexall. If we just completely change it, like it was very urban, very a lot of hip hop, a lot of that kind of clientele, and that kind of vibe in there. I'm like, if we just flip it to something completely different that's really sort of neutral and sort of applicable to any event that could be going on in Rexall. Right. Rexall's busy, like, you know, 200 days a year, and that alone would support this place that was free with next to no rent, and there's nowhere else to go. Right. That was completely wrong. It sucked. And we opened up the year of the lockout. So we literally opened August 17th, and then they announced the lockout like the 30th of August. So we opened this new place to no events. So then as soon as you try to build a vibe or build a weekend thing, you really need an opening, or it's really tough to start from building momentum. So we lasted there for about a year or so, and then we ended up selling it to somebody else who flipped it to something, YEG or something. I think it's turning into a strip club now. That's the last I heard, but that was a major mistake that we were overconfident about. So really, you know, when looking at, when we opened in St. Albert, same thing. We had an opportunity on the south side, had an opportunity in St. Albert. It is a bit of gut feel. It is a bit of, but you really try to just all agree, and then one day you kind of go, are we doing this? You just do it.
And you feel like, another question that we have is, for your advice for somebody that is maybe has a background similar to yours, 21 years old, and wanting to start their own business. So, what were some of the things you advise them to do, and some that you may not advise them to do?
Well, advised to do. We get a lot of it too within our company. What we have is we'll hire someone that really is entrepreneurial minded. But to start your own business, there's a lot, and it's not that it's unattainable, but there's so many working parts, and not all businesses are the same. So my experience is restaurant and bar. Right. There's food, there's drink, there's legal, there's licensing, there's construction. There's so many different things going on at the same time, parallel to each other. I find that, and I'm really good at some of them and not good at other ones. Yeah. So really finding someone, finding a group or finding people that complement your weaknesses is a big one. It's easier said than done, of course. And sharing of ideas is a good one. And I don't only say it in a bad way, but sometimes I need someone to tell me, like, that's a good idea. Like, go for it, you know. Because sometimes if you have a couple ones that don't do so well, then you start to doubt yourself. Yeah. So you got to keep on keeping on, I guess, that way. And I would just say do it. The one advice I have to everyone is that is if you try to find something you like to do, I feel like the money will work it out itself. Because if you enjoy doing what you're doing and you're passionate about it, that'll just come through. I mean, we see it every day at work. We see people who love to serve, are great servers. We see people that are there for the money or there to fill time are not great servers. Right. So it's your passion will show through any business you go after.
We'll just kind of end. You're also working in the community with you're a strategic event development and consulting for Abbotsfield. Yeah. Maybe talk a little bit about that and what you're doing and how that came about.
Yeah. So I'm a graduate of Landmark Education, which is a separate thing, but part of the Landmark thing is really I wanted to make an impact on my community and create my own charitable foundation. Realizing charitable foundations are a lot of work, just like a business. So really what the Abbotsfield Youth Project, what they do is they help at-risk youth in the Northeast Edmonton. just get through day to day. And they help individual students. It's not a program where they have a roster of kids that they're assisting, whether it's trouble at home, skill development, a variety of things. So what happened with that was I went to one of the schools, like I went to a school that they assist, so it was a nice hybrid for me to be able to take on this group in the sense that they have one major fundraiser every year, and they're amazing people there that do awesome things, but they are not good at organizing a fundraiser. So when they were doing it, they were averaging around $4,000 to $5,000 to raise, and last year we raised 35 in one night. So really, that's a way for me to really give my effort and my connections and our companies. Just that's what we do every day. Is we put on parties and put on events, and these people are amazing at helping kids and not amazing at events.
So you can combine them
both, and really, and it's something that I went to the elementary school that they help out, so it's really close to home.
Very cool. I think that's it for today. I think but it's been a great discussion. Again, thanks for coming to NextUp.